Welcome to the Good Place Marionville podcast, dedicated to highlighting the good in Marionville, Missouri.
Today's episode will continue our commitment to showcase the goodness in Marionville, uniting our community through shared stories of hope and optimism. So hang out with us for a little while we cover some of the good this week.
City updates. Last week's Alderman meeting, fiery, all kinds of explosive things going on.
No, that was the fireworks.
That's right. That's for the fireworks Saturday night at the park. Actually, it was just a great conversation amongst all the aldermen. Really exciting news. The economic development plan is moving forward. The annual report was given by Police Chief Coatney and said that crime was down last year. Sneaking up this year, but crime was down last year. But just remember that minutes from the meetings can always be found on the city website.
You know, in school news, the volleyball had a tournament that was a huge success this past weekend, and I hope you enjoyed having all those extra food trucks in town.
So was that the big volleyball or the little volleyball, or was it the volleyball team?
The team.
Okay, the team.
All the teams. Okay, tournament of teams.
Plus, there was a Sandlot baseball tournament this past weekend where you heard lots of fireworks. If we'd only known, we'd have told you about it so you could have seen those fireworks.
You know, Bank of Billings, we are so excited for them as they've moved into their new building. They hosted their open house on June 14th, and the community seemed to really have fun coming out to celebrate this huge milestone.
Big hot dogs, big hamburgers, bagged chips, phenomenal stuff, as well as fried pies. And man, were they good. They really were. A big shout out to the Bank of Billings for being a sponsor of the Good Place Marionville podcast. Technology is ever changing. That's why the Bank of Billings is working hard to update their offerings with better online banking, mobile banking, and updated ATMs and ITMs. Just remember, they're a member FDIC and an equal housing lender. Hey, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with Police Chief Wes Coatney. He's going to give us the inside scoop on who he is and how he drives the policing in our two great cities, the cities of Marionville and Aurora. We'll be right back with Police Chief Coatney. Hey, welcome back to the Good Place Marionville podcast. Today, our special guest is Police Chief Wes Coatney. Comes to us all the way from Aurora. He's busy. We know he's got a lot of things to be doing. And unfortunately, the first time we interviewed him, I forgot to press record. So this is our second run at it. And it's not that we were practicing. It's just that I forgot to press record. Wes, I'm really sorry about that. So when you were growing up, Wes, did you always want to be a police officer?
I did. Yeah. About 5 years old. I was riding around with my dad before the days of car seats. The highway patrol pulled my dad over for going a little over the speed limit. And the highway patrol's technique is to take a driver back to their patrol car, sit in the passenger seat with them while they're doing their business. And of course, that left me in the truck, and I was pretty freaked out, thinking they were going to haul Dad to jail. And the highway patrolman saw that I was pretty upset in looking back through the back glass, and so he came out and talked to me for quite a while. Told me my dad was awesome, that he knew my dad. Dad was not going anywhere, and was super, super nice to me. And from that day forward, I was going to be a policeman. That was just it. There was no other option in the matter.
Did you ever get a chance to meet that guy after you became a police officer?
Yeah, I did. My dad knew him. So as I got older and started doing some law enforcement explorer program when I was 15, of course, I ended up being around the Berry County Sheriff's Department for a minute, and he was there, and I got to meet up with him and kind of tell him it's your fault that I got into this line of work. So, yeah, but he was a super nice guy, retired now, but super great guy.
It's amazing what an impact one conversation can have on somebody. And I think that's a good lesson for us here in Marionville to learn from, because we may, be able to speak positive words into somebody that can change their future. And we're grateful for how that happened for you. So you alluded to Berry County. Is that where you grew up?
Yeah. So when I was born, I was born in the Monette Hospital, but we lived in Exeter, Missouri. My dad was worked at the Union Carbide factory down in Rogers, Arkansas, and my mom worked at the Justin Boot factory in Cassville. And so that's where I was. My dad retired from that line of work and got into the car sales business. Wound up becoming a manager at Jimmy Mitchell Motors in Aurora. And so while I was in high school, we moved to Aurora.
So did you get to drive sweet new cars when you were in high school? Like, did your dad bring on the best, fastest model for you?
I got to get into a Ford GT when Jimmy Mitchell Motors got a Ford GT in stock. Got to be around and in Dodge Vipers off and on, and Dodge Stealth was my favorite car when I was a little guy, kind of the same thing as a Mitsubishi 3000 GT. And yeah, not only did I get to drive them, I got the opportunity to own one. My one of my 16th birthday, I got to have a 93 Dodge Dakota 318 V8 Mark III, with really screaming fast truck, and it was all decked out. And we took it to car shows and everything with that. So yeah.
How many speeding tickets did you get in that Dodge? Zero?
That's awesome.
Zero
Never got
speeding
caught or
tickets.
never
Clean record.
speeding.
Yeah, never got caught. But I will tell you that I had an unfair advantage my senior year of high school because I joined the fire department and I was a volunteer fireman. So I got to drive fast with the blue light flashing. So I probably got away with some things that I probably shouldn't
To
have.
get on the scene. That's awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your family then.
Okay, so my mom and dad, and then I've got a brother and a sister. Then my brother's in Republic, my sister's up near Jeff City, and I have a wife, Kate, that I married back in 2022. 2021.
Never
Sorry,
hesitate.
Put this
You're
on the
being
record.
recorded. Okay.
I was about to tell you when I started with
It's
Aurora.
the pressure
Yeah.
cake.
Yeah.
It's a pressure cake.
That's
Don't hold
right.
it again.
Yeah.
Camera.
Yeah, we got married, but the funny thing is I've known her for, over 30 years as a classmate, but we just never really, dated or hung out or anything. And so some years later in life, this thing's kind of lined up, and COVID did bad for a lot of people, but it did great for me. It caused me to have my state office closed in Jefferson City. And so I ended up coming back to Aurora to be around my family. And Kate and I got together, and she's just absolutely perfect. And so we ended up getting married, and I knew that state offices were going to reopen eventually, and I was approached about the police chief position here, and so I switched from the state and came here, and so I'm home. I'm actually just back home.
That's awesome. So how long have you been a police officer?
So if you count my time as a 19-year-old academy student working in the Greene County Jail in Springfield, I would be looking at about 25, going on 26 years in criminal justice in one way or the other. So police officer, correctional officer, volunteer fireman, emergency medical technician earlier on, and then police officer for a lot of years, and then investigations manager at the state level for about 12 years, and then back now. So, yep, long time. Been doing it since I was still in high school.
Everybody's going to be doing the math now.
Yeah.
You've given that away now. So
Yeah.
that's okay.
So if you I graduated high school in the 98-99 school year. So I was pretty much already in it at that point. And so I've been in it since.
Wow.
Excellent. So you've been the police chief for the Aurora Marionville Police Department since 2021.
Mhm.
Excellent.
All right, so I've never lived in a town with a two city police department. How does that work, and what's the advantage?
It was an adjustment period for me too. I saw it when I was working at the state up and around St. Louis, because a lot of those little towns get together and have a mutual police department. But I'd never seen it in a kind of a rural community like that. And so the advantage is that basically the two towns turn into like a big patrol beat. And we can get, I remember back many years ago when I was a policeman in Aurora, Marionville did not have a police department during that time, none whatsoever. And so they were waiting on the sheriff's department to get there. They had a sheriff's deputy sometimes assigned to the Marionville area, but sometimes they'd get pulled away, and there would be a 30-40 minute wait for law enforcement when we in Aurora were just, 5 minutes up the road. And so I think somebody recognized that was an issue and merged the two police departments. Marionville has 4 full-time police positions, which doesn't provide you a 24-hour service. And so with the merger, Marionville and Aurora both get 24-hour a day, 365-day-a-year service. And usually there's 3, 4, 5 police officers on at any given time. So if there's something big that happens out on the highway or in town, you'll have plenty of law enforcement instead of just one guy kind of trying to manage everything by himself. You'll have 5, 6, maybe more, depending on what the situation is.
Okay, so here's a question I've been wanting to ask, and I think you can answer it.
Okay.
There is a little building on the edge of town. Like, we're new to town. Like, was that part of, like, what is the purpose of that?
You talking about the police
Yeah.
station? Yeah. So over on Western, when I took the job, that building had been flooded and damaged, and so they really didn't have anything in that building. But there had been an insurance claim filed, and so when I came, they kind of made me the building administrator of that. And so basically, I just oversaw it getting fixed, getting the flood damage out of it. And so now we use it as a police station. So when an officer takes a report in Marionville, then I want them to do that report in Marionville. So they go over to the police station, use a computer. Marionville has its own report management system, and so they type the report, goes through the system, and all of that. It's just a way for me and way for the department to keep staff in
Sure.
Marionville, because before, when they had to do a report, they'd come to Marionville, take a report, go back to Aurora, and they were sitting at Aurora for an hour doing the paperwork. And so with this, I can have them, stay local to what service they're providing, and yeah, so we
That
use
just might answer a question for people, because, wondering like when they're coming and going and how that works. So that's good news right there. So what do you love best about being police chief?
Oh man, this is my home. This is my community, and so I often tell people, when you have chiefs that move around and bounce and bounce and bounce, I kind of think that they don't have that dedication to their city and to their home. And so, having been here, and this was kind of where I flourished and graduated high school here, flourished and started my law enforcement career, emergency services career, fire, and all of that stuff. I go to bed each night knowing that this is my home. This is where I want to be. I do not want to go anywhere else. I don't care how much money somebody will throw at me. This is just comfortable for me, and it's personal to me that we do a good job, and that we provide a good service, and that we try to keep crime down to a minimum as much as possible. And I love it so much that oftentimes you'll hear me at 2:00 in the morning on the radio out pulling cars over myself, because I still just love to go out and do it.
Keep that
All
in
right,
mind.
so everybody know there's no watching.
All right. So what are some of the greatest challenges that you face as a police chief?
We have very similar challenges that any other police department has. Staffing levels in law enforcement have gone way down. People just aren't going into that line of work like they used to. When I applied for the police academy back in 2000, when I was kind of fresh out of high school, there was 200 people that went and tested for 30 positions. And so you had to test high enough on this entry exam to get into the academy. And it was a purely academic test, and so many people weren't able to get in. Well, fast forward to now, and they barely have enough people to fill a police academy in order to just have it. And so, just over the years, I think just a combination of things: mistakes by law enforcement, mistakes by media, mistakes by public perception got kind of twisted, and we're as much to blame for a lot of that as anybody. And I think it's starting to get better. We're changing. We're constantly changing the way we provide services, and so I think we're getting more into that mental health aspect and more of that caseworker aspect that I think the community needed. The old way of throwing somebody in jail when they're having a crisis is not really effective anymore, and it got us into a lot of bad uses of force. And so getting out of that, and not having near as many uses of force as we used to, I think is causing people to come back to the profession.
Staffing is a situation everywhere, and it's really good for us to have that perspective from you. So thanks so much for sharing that. So, this is the Good Place Marionville podcast. We believe that Marionville is a good place to live, but will we, I know crime ebbs and flows, things affect it. And even in last week's city report, you were talking about, the fluctuation and things that are happening. How are you going to be able to keep crime the way it is right now? Or what do you think?
My goal will always to make crime zero. I will probably go to my grave wishing that I could make that happen. But I will always be dedicated to making crime zero. And so, if I could put myself out of business, I would.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that I think that we can, and the requirement is the buy-in from our staff, and we have buy-in from our staff right now. We have staff that go out and target people. That's really the key. Is law enforcement just kind of wanders around and toodles and just kind of waves at people and all of that. That's not really effective law enforcement. But we've done a lot more scientific approach to law enforcement, where we look at our problem areas, we look at our problem people, we look at our problem addresses, and we focus and we target and we attack that, and encourage people to either change their lives or change their address. And both either one of those things is acceptable to us, but not changing is not acceptable. Will be a thorn in their side and a problem until they either move or get their lives together. And so as long as we keep pushing, I think in that way, and finding our problem people and putting that pressure on, we'll keep crime suppressed.
I think you mentioned in the city meeting as well, community involvement. Like, talk about that for a minute, because this is the community listening right here.
Yeah. We push so hard for people to call us when something seems off. I know a lot of people right before they push that number into their cell phone, they're thinking, well, I don't want to bother these guys. They're busy. They got 17,000 calls to go to a year and all that. And all that's true. But we don't know everything. We don't have spider senses. We're not like Spider-Man, where we can just tell something's wrong in a certain area. So there's 2 or 3 of us on sometimes at night, and we've got, approaching 10,000 people and hundreds of businesses. We just can't be at that moment, at that place when that thing happens. And so if something seems weird, if a car's kind of going slow, or there's a vehicle that you're not familiar with, or somebody walking that seems like they're going down the alleyway and that doesn't feel right or whatever, give us a call. My guys love to get those suspicious activity calls, because legally, if I'm driving around and I see somebody walking, I've got a pretty limited amount of things I can do constitutionally to see what that guy's up to. But if somebody calls me and says that person's suspicious, that raises my level of reasonable suspicion to be able to push a little bit harder and figure out why that person's there. So
is it a 911 call, or is there another number they should call?
Call 678-5025. That is the number to the police department here in town. So if I've got during Monday through Friday, I've got staff full time that are answering the phones during the day. At night, when we close down that front office, that number will automatically roll over to our Lawrence County Dispatch. Okay. And
we'll put that in the show notes then for people, so that they know that number and can plug it in, because that's always my question. Do I call 911? What do I do? And then I maybe do nothing. And we don't want that to happen. We're hearing it here from the
if it's an emergency, absolutely call 911.
Exactly.
But if it isn't, and you're just kind of thinking something's weird, just call 678-5025. That'll roll over to dispatch if we don't have anybody there, but we'll get somebody rolling out there to check on it.
I'm a little concerned that you missed that class on Spidey sense in the academy.
It's not.
I thought that was for everybody. I thought everybody get that.
It's genetic, Jim.
We pray to have it. Believe us, we would love to be able to. Oh, there's a crime happening over in Marionville on this street. We would love to be able to have that, but unfortunately, that's just not human ability. So we got to have, with us, with 30 people, that means, we've got 60 eyeballs.
Right.
And
but neighbors have it. Neighbors have Spidey sense.
Right.
If you know something is wrong in your neighborhood, you know it, and that's what you're asking for.
Yeah, I noticed that you have a lot of fun on Facebook with your posts. In fact, you were offering a free rental last week on Facebook.
Apartment rental.
Rental business is hard. Finding a good place to live for a reasonable price is tough right now in this economy. So, bad decisions can lead you right to a living arrangement.
That's right.
I love it. You articulate things so beautifully. So great.
You need to subscribe to the Aurora Marionville Facebook page so you get Chief Coatney's posts, because they're they're either emotional where they draw tears to your eyes, or they're hilarious, like the free rent option, which comes with 3 squares a day. All right. Many times you post things on Facebook that express your deep faith. How important is your Christian faith to your job?
So I was raised in church. So from the time I was old enough to breathe, I was going to church. And so mom and dad took us to church every Sunday, many Wednesday nights. And that's kind of continued through my life. My wife was a member of a church when we got together, and so I joined that church with her. Um, the thing about it is, and I don't want to, I'm not pushing a belief system on anybody, but if you read the Bible, it is a instruction manual for law enforcement. In Isaiah, for example, one of the things I always think about in Isaiah is learn to do good and demand justice and do justice. And you can just go from verse to verse to verse in the Bible and find where doing good is the point and is what everybody needs to be doing. And so law enforcement allows me to go a step above that. And so I often tell my guys all the time, what better job in the world do you have to where you can just come in, get into a car, and just go find something good to do for the community? Do good, just whether it's arresting a bad guy or helping somebody with a tire, or I was driving around Marionville the other day and there was an elderly man trying to load a lawnmower, a push lawnmower up into his truck, and he was struggling, and I was able to just stop and help him get that loaded, and I told him to call me when he needed to unload it because he was taking to get his blades sharpened. Though that kind of stuff is just personally meaningful to you, and I believe that that's doing the Lord's work, is going out and doing good and being a symbol of doing good in the community.
And we appreciate it.
So powerful. Our pastor on Sunday was preaching on goodness from Fruit of the Spirit. And he said sometimes doing good means just not doing bad, right?
Yeah.
So all the criminals out there, just don't do bad.
Right.
And then these guys can focus on what, needs to happen. So what's one thing that you want to say to the good people of Marionville from your heart today before we go?
Go Comets. But also, it's easy to get caught up in the world and listening to the news and listening to all the bad and all the stuff that goes on. But I hope people can take a minute to take a breath, look around, and be thankful for where they live, because we are not seeing the problems that a lot of people are seeing. Just imagine living in downtown Chicago right now versus living near downtown Marionville. Your safety is so much better than so many people around the world, especially in areas like this. And just be thankful. Not necessarily thankful to us, but thankful for the people that you live around and with, because it might be us to come and bail you out of a bad situation, but more likely it's going to be your neighbors and stuff that's going to come and bail you out of a situation in Aurora and Marionville. And so be thankful, and also call us. I always say that, call us. If you think it's weird or it's sketchy or something strange or whatever, please just call us. You are never going to bother us with a suspicious activity call. That is how we do law enforcement. We have to have your eyeballs. We have to have your attention. We have to have you looking, because we cannot see it all. It's just impossible. And just get us there and let us check it out. Maybe we can do something, maybe we can't, but at least we took a look.
Yeah.
Right. Aurora Marionville Police Chief Wes Coatney, thanks for being on the Good Place Marionville podcast today.
Thank you very much.
Hey, really a great time with Police Chief Coatney. We got to let him go. He's got to go take care of the town. He and all his police officers that are taking care of a great job of taking care of Marionville and Aurora.
So now before we finish up, there's just a few more good things that we want to note, Jim.
All right, so fireworks scheduled on June 29th. There'll be food trucks, fireworks in the park, June 29th. Food and music start at 6 p.m. Fireworks start at dark, which will be sometime after 9 o'clock. Make sure you bring chairs and blankets and make it a family night. Don't forget the bug spray, and Clayton's fireworks never disappoint.
That's right. So looking forward to that. Have that on our calendar. And the Marionville Applefest, just remember that it is just really around the corner on September 20th and 21st this year. Still
some booths open. You can bring your business, bring your organization, get a booth, get in front of thousands of people that come out for Applefest every year. This podcast is a great platform for you to highlight local businesses and show your support for the good that's happening right here in Marionville. Consider becoming a sponsor. Contact us at goodplacemarionville@hotmail.com. There are a whole bunch of choices for sponsorship levels on the podcast.
When you hear some good news or witness something good happening, just email us at goodplacemarionville@hotmail.com or call 888-677-8167. That's the number on the side of the building at Central Place.
Thanks for joining us for the Good Place Marionville podcast. Keep your eyes up for the good. Tell us about it, and together we can celebrate Marionville.